What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Deadlock Fight Night number 26. Yes, you heard it. We're here. 26 weeks. We're back. Jason, how you feeling? You excited for this week?
I'm always excited when it's DFN time because we got Intel on board as well, bringing us the show every single week, supporting us inside and out. And not to mention, last week it was a little bit tough to watch these games because we had so many new items introduced, so many changes having happened that now finally that extra week of play under their belts, I'm hoping to see some elevated play out of all these teams.
Yeah, there's been a lot of big changes on the Cursed Apple. I think a lot of fans tuning in are going to want to be seeing, what is top of the meta. We saw last week, we saw Wraith get a huge boost, Shiv being played a ton, a lot of teams having different visions, new item builds coming out, and now the teams have had a bit more time to work at it and grind away, figuring out what's going to be the best. Shout out to Cattywomp, thanks for the Prime sub. Wouldn't be able to do this show without the wonderful community as well coming together to support us. But first, let's take a look at the schedule. Let's look at what's on the docket for today before we jump into these matches.
Yeah, man. It's getting like a repeat here over at EU, but when you have the three best teams playing week in and week out, I wouldn't have it any other way. We've got Abrahams up against One Win, finally making their return here after a couple of weeks off, and hopefully for them some time in the hyperbolic time chamber because they have looked like a shadow of their former selves when they were previously dominating DFN. But of course, they're going up against VP in the end in the winners match for $1,000 on the line, and VP they're just really not bad at any meta that comes their way.
Yeah, they've been so stable and consistent, and now with the big changes of the game, they found themselves back on top. So they're going to be defending that title spot in the EU money match and a little bit into our games. Then later on in North America, Hydra Nation has been firmly knocked off that top spot that they were camping for so long. They're going to go up against Valhalla in the challenger match. And then, of course, it's Melee Creeps waiting in the final money match of the day. They've been incredibly dominant. They've looked really rock solid as a team, very well-rounded with a great read of the meta. They were able to get a win last week with Ido subbing in. So even with the ringer, they were able to still get the win. Very impressive performance from Melee Creeps as we look forward to that final match of the day in North America.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it could be a very close one. If I were to put my money on any final for North America, I would still say Hydra Nation and Melee Creeps, but Hydra Nation looked a lot better than I expect them to. Poppers in particular and Fish Cake really melding well with the team. I'm curious, with this extra week of play, though, are they going to be able to continue to level up their performance? Because with Melee Creeps, AVG is going to be back playing today, and I know he's revitalized, he's ready to go, and he's ready to get another $1,000 for his team.
Well, to talk about this first opening match here between Abrahams and One Win team, we're going to bring in DDK, our wonderful analyst, to help break down some of the intricacies here. Abrahams kind of like this reformed version of the Paravision roster with a few changes, looking pretty strong last week. But of course, One Win have been the one team really, I think, to be solidly on top of the competition. I don't know that Abrahams has reached that level in Europe historically. I'm wondering, you think they can do it again today, Dan?
I guess we'll see. I think, like Jason said, we saw, if we go back to like the last big patch where we went 4 lanes to 3 lanes, that's fundamentally changed the game so significantly. It took teams quite some time to find their bearings, find their footing, and I think this is probably going to be the same, and maybe even to a larger extent, because with items, there's so much in terms of different combinations that you can do, and just like people discovering now what's good and what's not. That I actually think it's going to take longer for people to figure out how to actually play. So, to be honest, I don't know how to answer your question, Jake.
I think it's fair to say there's been a huge shakeup, right, in the game. Maybe the biggest sense. Even I wonder, what do you guys think, whether the map rework to 3 lanes or this item change? I think this might be the biggest patch yet. The items are the heart and soul of any MOBA. It is really, really important to the way you play the game, is the way those items build comes together, and the complete revamp of the shop. I've been having a ton of fun playing Deadlock this last week. I thought it's been way more fun. You have a lot more creativity, I think, with the builds. You can go for these kind of zany, all-in, full commit builds on one type of item, and you're not forced to buy efficiency early game items.
I think this patch is definitely given way to some really cool changes. I think the addition of changing the box spawn timers to be 2 minutes means you can go for these box routes, allowing one of your solo laners to get a lot more farm and get a lot more powered up, get the ultimate online a lot quicker. But one thing I am worried about, though, is when it comes to items, I'm hearing some rustlings of certain items that you'll see in almost every single build today. And honestly, if you're a pro player, if you get any sort of advantage, even if it's a 1% advantage buying this set of items versus another set of items, you're going to take that any day of the week. So I think for me, I think this patch will have further changes once they kind of narrow in on pro play and where they see items consistently being bought across the board, and then maybe tweak those a little bit, because there were some huge changes in the last patch that happened on the 19th.
Yeah, let's take a look now. Some of the rosters, players who are, of course, going to be putting on the show for us, showing us what to build, what to copy in your pubs. For Abrahams, we've got Together, Taz, Saf, Saint, Jamside, and Hoot. I feel like Taz has been one of the most impressive, stable names in this roster, whether he's on the Paradox, he's listed here, or the Holiday, has just been a monster initiator, really a key part of the team's success. If he's having a good game, that tends to be the lightning rod for the rest of the squad to fall behind.
And I think one of the interesting things as well for some of the more experienced players that have been here from the very early days, as have many of these players been. It's a weird sentence, but I'm going to go with it. We have a situation where you're forced to be good at adaptation. If you actually want to consistently play at the top level, you can't really be one of those players that is slow to adopt and you're kind of basically copying the innovators. You have to have, I think, that natural skill set. And some players have it and some players don't. But I think, what we're going to see from a lot of the teams here today are people that are pretty strong, or players that are pretty strong with regards to that like particular skill metric.
I'm looking towards, if you're going to mention Tass, I'm going to go also with Together. I think he's definitely been one of the standouts when it comes to Shiv play. He's going to be the Shiv player for this team, and he's definitely someone they can rely on to have big games. Though I do kind of wonder is like when he doesn't have a big game, and Jamside, I don't think we've seen yet really hit the power levels we've seen of him in the past with this roster. I think they can be a little bit weak, but Hoot for me is always like the wild card because he can be such a good carry. He can be such a good support player. He can be such a good playmaker. I'm kind of really curious to see what role he settles into in a team, unless he's going to play this fluid role that always changes depending on draft.
Well, let's take a look now at the 1-win roster, their opponents. I think it's fair to say that this 1-win team has a little bit more pedigree. They were on top for quite a few weeks in DFN, and although things have really changed a lot, I think we have seen that this team has that potential. You got somebody like Empty Dreams. You think way back, this guy was playing a ton of Wraith. Now Wraith has rocketed back to, like, I would maybe not the best hero in the game, but certainly top of the meta. Very likely we're going to see it picked or banned in almost every game with that new Mercurial Magnum build really opening up the potential of the character. But across the board, Zania, ABL, Xenon, they've all had huge games. Flammable and Overseas have been really big playmakers and kind of flexible across the support / semi-carry roles. This is a team that I feel, even if they're not the strongest today with the build perspective, the mechanics are so good on this team. They're just a scary foe to be going against.
Yeah, I love how this is a team where it might be the team, if I'm going to pick any Deadlock team, where I'm like, oh, this has like the most star players on the same team. And initially when we actually went from the 4-lane to the 3-lane meta, they were sort of innovating their style, saying, hey, actually we want to be really heavy on the brawling. But then it turned out, as we saw the weeks develop, that hang on, actually multiple players, like, whether it's Overseas, Empty Dreams, APL, like Zedin, like can all play like a lot of the playmaker heroes that we had been previously used to seeing. Other teams maybe have like a couple players that could be adept enough to actually compete at this level. So I totally agree, and I feel like what we're going to see is them just going from strength to strength as soon as they get their footing on how these roles play out. But I feel like those roles don't get old in this game.
I worry for Overseas though. I feel like out of this entire roster, he probably got hit the hardest because his Bebop had nerfs basically done to it. Great Talon pretty much had nerfs done to it, especially with the last patch on the 19th, adding a lot of extra spirit resist to items. So his Great Talon's gonna be a lot weaker. I feel like those are like the two heroes that we normally see him be on to be like this massive playmaker. Even Holiday, to be fair, has been falling out of the likes of a lot of pro players, more towards the Paradox, though Veilwalker being cheaper is a lot. It gives her extra opportunities, especially if you can get on that 100% uptime. But yeah, I think he's been hit hard, and I think it's up to like Empty Dreams and Empty Dreams and ABL to really step up. And as you mentioned, Wraith being a contested pick, I think it's probably going to be one of the most contested picks between these two teams. That and potentially Abrams as like the two top picks to look for, because we know Empty Dreams can play a good Wraith. We know Jamside can as well.
That's a great point about Abrams. I think Abrams was like first banned every game last week in EU, so like no one got to play it, but that shows that the teams are really putting a ton of prio on the character. They really think it's a huge threat. I'll have to see if it ends up getting through those bans in these drafts. However, in order to do the draft, of course, this is Deadlock Fight Night. We've got to see the Mo and Krill melee 1v1 to determine that pick priority order. And in a week like this week, I mean, with how many big shifts there's been in character power, I feel like the draft has never been more important than it is in a week like today.
All right.
The draft has been so weird as well. Like even before the patch we had happen with the item, the shop rework, we had like the meta completely shift from what ZP and I were casting the One-Man Bombshell Volume 5 event to this. Things just drastically changed. And also, speaking of changing, so is our 1v1s. You can see, Dan, they take a lot longer now as there's this whole mind game happening between the two.
Oh my god, this is like the most parries I've ever seen.
I was saying we need to get the counter spell in as well, so they can like also like throw spells and parry those. We just gotta get all the parries.
Put rebuttal on. ZP's favorite item is rebuttal. So it like lowers your parry cooldown by a lot. It's pretty wild.
We should definitely do that. We should also, by the way, find other like crazy things for our own self-amusement and see how many other shows copy it. Because I know the Marin Krill 1v1 is something that some other shows have copied. So we should just do that as an experiment. See what crazy stuff we can do with a copy.
To a level 1 Kelvin 1v1.
Oh. I'm down.
Say a max level Kelvin 1v1 with max items and they just heal each other forever. So, 3 hours into
no one can die.
Exactly.
Somebody falls asleep. And the first ban Abrams. Okay. I mean, I'm interested when we'll see this hero see play. Maybe it'll just be like, is it really that insane? I mean, that out of control is kind of wild.
I mean, was it Hydration showed it off last week in the Challenger match, and then Ido got to show it in the last match in the best of 3 up against Hydration, and you just saw like the impact. Like he just does not die with these new items. He becomes this like insanely tanky force. And honestly, for one win with a Shiv ban coming through, to me, that's like, all right, we're gonna pick Wraith for Abrahams. Like that would be almost my go-to here to not only give it to your team, but to deny it from the other side.
It's interesting because I wonder, like, I almost think I would have loved to see Shiv not get banned, because yes, you could give up the Shiv, but then you might get like Wraith plus Kelvin as your openers. So I'm curious really, because I think you're right. I think Wraith is gonna go. I mean, will it go first overall? Like, maybe it is just that good, but
no, Warden.
Okay.
I believe that's Warden, yeah.
Warden's also been another extremely popular, but now one win probably grabs Wraith +1, maybe Kelvin. Although I wonder, Kelvin without Abrams and Shiv, Kelvin I think can still be good. But then you really need stuff like Geist and Yamato to combo and to like sort of match that tempo, play for the heals. Although I think honestly, healing tempo Kelvin I think is insane. I actually think that item has made Kelvin much better. And they're gonna take the Paradox Prio 1. You mentioned it before, I think, Jason, that Holiday has fallen off a little bit. So that's a lot of respect from one-man team.
I was going to ask, what do you guys feel like has fallen the most from like SA tier to like what's had the biggest fall off in this patch? You guys feel like?
Kind of want to say Mirage.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah,
so
Mirage is
like
way less
3.
picked. Although Leffa had a pretty strong game on him. Oh, and one team. That's okay. I'm really surprised though. To not take Wraith here, to me, really surprising. I think Wraith is too good not to take in that second slot.
There's Wraith and there's also Sinclair. And if you're gonna get to the second round of bans, I mean, you need to lock in that Sinclair before that happens. So are they giving up Wraith to Abrahams so to run a Wraith Warden and then maybe even a Kelvin on top of that, because you can lock him into Frozen Shelter and then hey, you can't run away from that last stand. Dynamo.
Whoa, okay. Things have really changed then, even from last week in the scrims. To take Dynamo this early, especially because one of the team have not committed to like a heavy bruiser comp. They really haven't done that. I do think the Arcane Surge item is pretty insane on Dynamo. I could see the vision that it can be really good. I mean, also I think Warden's a naturally amazing combo for Dynamo. Warden can initiate so aggressively and then Dynamo can kind of bail him out, or vice versa.
Wow. To see Wraith fall, I mean...
Yeah, I guess teams don't believe in Wraith anymore. Do they feel like... I mean, and there's an argument, though, for something like Dynamo that, like, okay, that's the counter to Wraith, is you just black hole her. And she isn't that tanky, right? She is just like a crazy turret of damage. And maybe the execution is just too strong at the highest level where people are just consistently dealing with it. But
I don't know, because, I mean, you're saying she's not tanky, but I know we're seeing a lot more Siphon Bullets being picked up out of, like, everyone possible out there. You pair that with the fact that you also can have Cultist Sacrifice last through death now. So you don't lose the buff anymore, which means you technically can have 100% uptime on it if you pick up Superior Cooldown as well, because it affects items, not only abilities. So you can have Cultist permanently up. You have your Siphon Bullets have a way quicker cooldown now on stacking up the HP. You have the extra health from Cultist on top of that. I mean, I get what you mean for sure. And I think that's something, if you're going to pick a Wraith, you have to be very careful of, is these Arcane Surging Warden Dynamos coming into your face. But I'm happy to see them get it locked in. I'd be really surprised to not see a Sinclair ban come through though out of Abrahams.
I was about to say, like, do we want to see
such a good Sinclair game, right? Like, it's so insane. I agree with you. I think that's like the ban here, just because it's too deadly. You could, I mean, I don't think they actually really want to Kelvin. The way they've been drafting, it's a lot of like ranged poke so far. They don't really have the front line to go with Kelvin. They're gonna prio the Kelvin, man. I think it's a mistake, though. I think they'd rather get the Sinclair on 1 win, and we know they're good at it too, right? It's just kind of a signature, I think, for Flammable is the one who's been playing it the most, I believe.
That's right.
I mean, I'm just thinking about Ivy and Lightning Scroll right now in my head for 1 win, because obviously Ivy would be most likely the support they go to. The fact that you can make the range on your Kutsu bombs enormous, you can stun them within it as well. Provides a lot of control for your team in these fights, and they're going to need that control because they're relatively squishy at the moment until we do see that Calico come through.
I guess it makes sense because do they expect Abrahams to actually pick Sinclair? Maybe not. So they always have the Ivy Sinclair options open.
Maybe, but if I were Abrahams, I would be taking Sinclair to just to take it away. I mean, I still think Sinclair is good. Like stealing the Wraith ulti is actually sort of a counter to Wraith.
You were looking
I guess it's not the only one that you could that I really see here. Okay, they're just okay. So Abrahams is actually drafting with a very different vision of the game rather than worrying about these top picks. It looks like they're just going for like the Giga team fight. They're going for like Warden and Yamato frontlining, initiating, and like you can never win a team fight against us because we're black holing you and lash ulting you. And I kind of like that.
What are we doing on the 1 win to deal with that?
I mean, honestly, we didn't really touch on the Calico pick too much. I actually really love that pick. Because with the box changes, you can get so far ahead with Ava that you can, I mean, you basically leave your dual partner alone in that lane. You go box farm on cooldown. You're going to build up such a huge lead on your team from that lane alone that it can really snowball, and Calico can get really far ahead. Even obviously with the nerf she's had, she can still be insanely strong and tanky in the late game.
I will say this is sort of the way Melee Creeps drafted what Abrahams is building right now in terms of like the just super heavy commitment to team fighting that looked pretty solid for them, you know, in NA, where like they're just like, even in some games where they fell behind, like another big change that's happened is the base is so much more defensible now. Like defending the base from a serious soul deficit is very doable. Like the positioning has been really reworked around that base area. It's much more defensible. Defending the final patron, I think, is much more doable. Defending the base guard is doable. 1 win, getting this Sinclair last is like, it's so valued to get that last pick too. Viscus is going to like try to be just a team fight in a box. He's like, I will go in solo and save people. It also makes it so Dynamo and Lash, like solo ulting people, is going to be really, you know, undesirable.
But I mean, I look at Abrahams and I'm kind of like thinking to myself, they got a really dirty wombo combo, but they also have 4 ultimates that they can use to just catch 1 player whenever they want. Like if you're a 1 win team, how do you push into Abrahams? You don't, because they have so many big ultimates that can shut you down. So Abrahams with 4 really powerful ults online can pick and choose when they want it. And they also kind of facilitate that downtime that you would have normally of like a Dynamo ult being down because of Singularity, or is Lash Death Slam going to be down. So they kind of cover each other whenever they use those ultimates, and there's going to be a lot of pain on 1 win side, I feel like.
I guess like the at least to me, the obvious counter is just to play heavy split pushing game where you're never allowing big team fights. And with like the Calico, the Mirage, you know, those are 2 obviously like really awesome heroes just in general for that type of play style. So, and I mean, I feel like everything is going to be. I mean, Sinclair as well, I think, obviously has a TP too, so you can do a lot of like very safe split pushing with Sinclair also. And Viscus is super fast with the Google, so it feels like there are options to counter that team fight approach. It just you know, it just comes down to like forcing those situations for Abrahams where you just like actually have to team fight, because there are obviously parts of the game that are like that.
Yeah, I think early game is going to be pretty important for both teams, right? Because if 1 win gets a nice lead, they start split pushing, they're just farming the map. You're going to show up with a bunch of heroes and ult, and you're going to like guaranteed kill the Wraith or the Mirage or something like that in the side lane. However, if that's just a 1 solo kill and you're bringing too many resources using heavy ults for that, you're losing farm on the rest of the map. It's not going to be worth it. By the same token, though, if Abrahams gets a lead and they're starting to like threaten objectives and you can't really show up to defend, you're fully reliant on split pushing. That could get a little bit hairy. So 2 teams have very, very different visions of how to play the game. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top here in our challenger match.
And I especially think with the base changes that you're mentioning, Jake, the base is more defensible. Maybe it gives Abrahams a bit more like power to like actually crack that open, as opposed to 1 win where you don't have as many ways to like initiate with some of these abilities. So that could be like another part of the vision to this approach. And I do love, by the way, that we have there's like these different visions now that are coming together, because there is so much stuff that you can't have tested yet, and it might be stuff that feels good that's actually shit, you know, because like no one has just understood, oh, this is the way you deal with it. Yeah, there's so many things like that. So, you know, in theory at least.
I mean, also One Win did take like a week or two off as well. After the One Win bombshell, right? They took, I think, like 2 weeks off because like VP had no one to really scrim. I think all the teams really took some time off. So for them to kind of get back into it's going to be taking a little bit of time. But I'm also curious with that break that they have had, because I know they've also still been playing individually. What have they learned and what are they going to bring to the table? And what potentially can they create in the meta? Because they were the ones to dominate before this last major patch happened. That took a long time for other teams to figure out how can we stop this like snowball potential, this death ball comp. And I want to see what they come up with. And maybe this is a start to it.
But we'll have to see who comes out on top here in our challenger match. This is Deadlock Fight Night number 26, presented by Intel. We're going to be getting into game very shortly. Abrahams versus One Win team, fighting for the right to challenge our champions in Europe, Virtus.pro, waiting in the wings, of course, in that money match. But two teams right now coming into this match with very different visions of the way that the game is meant to be played. And I think this is going to be instructive. I think this is going to be the week, really, for teams to put their visions to the test. I think, like you were mentioning before, I can't remember if it was Jason or Dan, but talking about, the adaptability being a key factor. Players who don't just follow the meta, but actually lead it. I guess we're going to get to see which team is better composed on that front. And,
go right into
say goodbye to Dan for the moment. Of course, a classic EU opening pause, standard experience, standard fare. I am interested to see though, like I think Sinclair, I assume this flammable, and Xenia's on Goo Ball. Flammable on Sinclair. They're both strong. I mean, especially Flammable has looked like one of the best Sinclairs. And this game, he's just got an absolute panoply of ultimates to choose from. There's really no bad choices here. Genuinely, I think all the ultimates are viable to steal. So it's going to be kind of wild to see the way he approaches the team fight. I do think Warden and Dynamo are probably going to be the biggest impact, biggest bang for your buck. I'm curious if he'll even max that ulti a little early.
I think it's really going to come down to, for One Win, like how well are we going to see Empty Dreams, which I'm assuming is on the Wraith, is going to play, and how well is ABL going to play? Because I feel like they're definitely going to need, like, they need this Wraith to perform well, to position well, especially against the amount of ultimates that he's going to be playing against is going to be so insanely hard. But as we said before, Abrahams need to have a decent start here. One Win can definitely skirmish quite heavily in that early to mid game. And we're already seeing a push initially on this left-hand side here, already, forced them under the Guardian. And to be honest, we've seen a lot of early Guardian takes turn into a lot of momentum for teams, especially when you get that flex unlocked, and then you can also get a lot of extra control when it comes to boxes and camps, which are even more important now with the comeback mechanics in the game.
Yeah, I also think Sinner Sack, with how powerful a snowballing item it is, we'll see more people going with that monster rounds early, which helps you, clear the waves, helps you start pressuring towers a little bit early.
Well, actually, Jake, I wouldn't even be surprised if we see specific players just save for that alone and don't buy anything else until they get that online. Because if you can get it at the before the 4-minute mark, you can eat a creep in your wave, and then you can also go eat a jungle camp when you come off cooldown and they just spawned in, because the way the timing works out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like when on my games, I've been not rushing it because I want to kind of wait for the ancient creeps to spawn, and I want to get it on the same timing as the red creeps to get the maximum benefit from the souls. But I thought it was an interesting thing you mentioned in the draft, talking about the idea of like going for the improved cooldown and really leveraging that snowball threat.
I mean, yeah, I didn't actually realize, I don't know if it's been this way the whole time, that cooldown actually works on your items as well. I didn't realize that, which is a huge boon for Cultist Sacrifice, to be honest. Not to mention like a couple of other things out there.
Okay,
like
this is crazy that Ava is box running at 2 minutes. You were talking about this, but she doesn't even have Calico. It's just still worth it. I mean, the subway is so full of riches. Xenia even went to steal some himself.
It's super important. Like, look, he's pretty much keeping up with Flammable, and Flammable's actually going to be getting further ahead because he's getting solo farm. Actually, sorry, not Flammable. It's actually Zanya. He's at 1.4. So ABL is actually ahead of Zanya, and if he can get back to lane in time, he's also going to be soaking up those souls as well. So that dual lane soaking we talked about before has kind of shifted to box and lane soaking.
First blood for Together is pretty nice find, right? Wraith is this huge gun threat, but it's all about snowballing that farm potential. You're not the strongest laner. Lash, meanwhile, I think getting the ultimate online early is huge for Lash, right? If he's able to be the one setting the tempo, he can like snowball a gank into another lane, maybe grab a kill or two. We've also seen that healing Nova. We just saw that procced from, I believe, is Overseas there in the mid lane. I mean, it's such a powerful stabilization item, especially under the pressure that Yamato puts on in the early game.
Yeah, probably one of the strongest items actually in the very early stages of the game, to be honest. The false sense of security you can lure people into thinking they can dive you. The high velocity picked up here for Saf as well. And now he's going for his own little bit of box running here, trying to do that in the downtime between the waves being pushed up. You can see Hoot doing the same. And honestly, I really wish we had the ability to see how many souls you pick up from boxes in this game. Because right now, like, we're starting to see Abraham's start to stretch their legs on it. As they have two players going against the one.
Warden's top of the game right now, right? With some of the box run he's been doing. It's interesting too. I think it's such a good thing for the game, actually, with how amazing the movement mechanics are. Such like a soul of Deadlock, I think, right now are those movement abilities. Oh, big punch out though. Could be scary for Dynamo. But yeah, they're continuing to keep on the aggression. Healing Nova in this lane too. So they've got multiple of these spread out among the lanes. Nice cube though, should stabilize this. And Infernus without the flame dash, probably too scared to commit.
I wonder if we're going to see any like Mystic regens, because we did have a new item added into the game that it actually evolves from that item as a tier 3, where abilities give you the heal as well. And again, you're seeing Health Nova come in. That was out of Infernus. I'm not used to seeing an Infernus pick that up, to be honest.
Yeah, that item has to be broken if Infernus is buying it. That's like an extreme. Like, why would you buy that item on Infernus?
I also wouldn't be surprised to see ABL maybe go Crushing Fists at some point. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go a little bit extra melee heavy, because you can sneak off a lot of those hits off, and especially if you get the stuns online to punish the coordination you need out of Abraham's to make this like wombo combo work. Could definitely pay dividends.
Yeah, man, the Healing Novas are creating crazy stabilization. Express Shot rush, though, man, that's insane on Yamato. So Yamato insta-rushing Express Shots, monster nuking. We also saw Hoot on Warden got rushed Headhunter. So they're not rushing the greed items, they're rushing the killing items. And right now it's paying off. Couple kills in these side lanes. And Express Shot Yamato is actually ridiculous. If we watch her like that, it's that first initial shot that you fire off, basically does like almost triple damage, like 2.5x damage, and it goes faster. So Yamato right click is ridiculous, and it's double Headhunter in this lane. That is actually disgusting to play against this in lane. If you just peek at all, Lash, Warden both Headhuntering you, that's a crazy amount of pressure.
Yeah, but a lot of damage coming your way. Definitely one of the very strong items. The Express Shot we did see actually used by Ido last week when he played Yamato, and it did some insane work. And I don't know who actually like started off building that on Yamato, but I kind of have to give it to Ido just because we
I saw it on Ido first.
DFN, right? Yeah, but exactly, right? So I mean, it's
so sick.
Insane.
I haven't seen it built like literally first item hard rush though. That's, I think, honestly makes sense because the item's all about aggression, and it's insane for the poking stage where Yamato's notorious for that in the early game, right? Being really sick at just grinding down the enemy health bars in lane. And it's just continuing. Like, Xenon's so low in mid, has to get. But I guess the heals just full healed him. He was like 1 HP.
Yeah, I mean, when you're rocking 2 of the Health Novas as well in the lane, it's really like tough to commit onto these kills. Though we can see them on cooldown and still low HP. And also the Express Shot really quickly. When you're paired with a Holiday, you get a lasso. Like that person's guaranteed dead. But also the poke of Crack Shot, plus having the Express Shot over on your Yamato, can just do some ridiculous damage. Honestly, Health Nova might not be able to heal you through. But in the meantime, we do see 1-1 take the Guardian on the left-hand lane. So they get the first Guardian of the game 6.5 minutes in. So now we could see that freedom. Though I believe ABL would be the one left in lane and Zanya would be the one rotating out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they put the prio for that side lane. There's also the opportunity to do some box running here. Still a minute or so before the center sacrifices come up. He's just right there camping the boxes right on the spawn. And I wonder if he wants to even convert this into a gank. He's already towards the mid. No, he's going to head back, though. Just farm up on the side lane. And that's been the one lane that 1-Win team has been dominating, right? Is that side lane with Viscus and Calico. So now that they're freed up, will they try to recover other lanes or just keep the pressure on? I think the answer is, looks like it's going to be contesting this mid wave. Viscus would love to get a decent team fight off.
I mean, also, I think ABL could kill Jam side. Like Calico versus Infernus in that lane could be relatively easy for him to start applying pressure on the Walker. The thing is, I can see the lane is actually being frozen by Jam side here, making it a lot more difficult for ABL to shove lane and then leave and go start to farm. As he does get a catch on him, and just I was saying, he can easily pick up that kill. Now he's going to have a free lane to farm, and now they have a man advantage in mid.
Yamato, very powerful here. Black Hole connecting in on the multiple cube, though. Keeping alive on Viscus, and Viscus still has roll. This looks like a very bad team fight now in the mid lane. Overextended for Abrahams. They're going to get punished despite some heavy ultimate commitment. And Zania, on incredibly low HP, still going to get out of trouble. So 1-Win team bringing the resources into the mid lane, it pays off. Those are some big team fight ultis deployed from Abrahams. I think Hoot and Together are the ones who really need to get active into this game. With Cultist Sack, Headhunter already available on Warden, though, his gun damage is ridiculous. See, this is crazy. That's so much. I mean, I don't think you can fight this guy, man. Like, oh, he's dead, I think. No? Okay, no, not with the heal. Stolen Warden ulti. Flash ulti missed, though. Oh, the counter ulti from the real Warden. See if he's going to be able to turn this one around. Might just turn this into a tower dive, Warden. No, maybe not. So both teams ulting each other and backing off. It's Empty Dreams, though, is going to have that next ultimate online.
Well, ultimate's committed for pretty much nothing being accomplished in that lane. I guess repelling the other team. We still have Empty Dreams with his telekinesis online if he wants to use it in that right-hand lane, which he might need to at some point. But also ABL, I think he's even freezing the lane in the left lane too. So he's at 9.1 thousand souls. Look how far ahead he is with the jungle farming, the box farming, and freezing lane. He has become such a threat they're going to have to pay attention to if you're Abrahams, and you need an answer. And luckily for them, they do have 4 different types of answers, whether it's the lasso, the death slam, the last stand, or it's going to be the singularity.
It's going to be a spirit strike now for Yamato. So going all in on that melee connection damage. Sinclair popping another copy. Kiting away, though, is Warden. Nice jukes as well on the wall sim. It's diving very deep here. This Warden still has the barrier. They're going to ult him as well. No Lash ulti to counter, but this is a very deep dive. Is there a chance here for him to play his way out of this with the help of Mirage, the damage coming in? It's not going to be seemingly quite enough, although they're wrapping around, trying to chase down Hoot with everything. And just getting out there, I think, is job done there. Wave crashed on that tier 1 Guardian. It's incredibly low. Should be easy to dive and clean up later. And that resource commitment, I wouldn't say it's a total failure for one-win team. They're able to defend the tower, but you would have loved to clean up Hoot with how well his game is going.
Also, the solos is something we have to keep an eye on. We're seeing 3 players for Abrahams kind of commit to this mid lane. When you have 3 players there, you're really taking away a lot of potential economy for your team, where 2 is going to be the most ideal even at this stage. As the second set of buffs going to be coming through. And ABL already able to get the kill onto Sap as they do turn it into 2. Not sure who picked up the buff, but one win's still going to come out ahead with the kills. And honestly, they should be able to start to pick up a pretty big lead off of this now.
Yeah, and this is where I think the lineup, we're going to start to see its pressure now that they're able to get some kills on the map and kind of get past that early game laning phase. This is where I think the ratting, the split pushing is going to become really a serious strength, especially as they look to take down these 2 Guardians still remaining defensive. Nice lasso, though, pulling in very deep. Lambo does have that TP out, but he can't quite get out in time. He does get the Guardian, though, before he falls, so a decent trade. We'll see if Abrahams have the power here to swing the lane back in their favor and try and pressure the mid Guardian on the other side.
There's actually a really good window for that lasso because the Spectral Assistant was put on the Guardian so he could chip it down. So he had actually no escape from that one. So he lassos him in, knows he can't run away, gets a clean kill. Obviously, they lose the Guardian anyway, so it's still going to suck for them in the end. And just Shadow's going to be used to get away from that binding word. The turn going to be trying to come through, but that's going to be the Death Slam going to be used. The Urn has been turned in by Hoot here, so a big play for Abrahams, but can they get out without losing too many players?
Telekinesis used. Still the fight going on, though. In the lane. Calico diving deep, but Warden continuing to tank the ulti on 5, I think. Oh my god, absolutely everyone being caught here. Abrahams find the wombo combo team fight they're looking for. One team just running for the hills now, trying to regroup, trying to separate. Flammable with the stolen Warden ult, though, turning this around. Calico's here too with a sick parry there. Beautiful connection. Turns around the extension. No TP out here for Flammable. He's in real trouble. He jukes away. I think he's behind them, no? Yeah, okay. He looks like he slipped away. Lashes on the chase down, though. He's trying to still catch Flammable out. Knows maybe where he is. Listening to the footsteps. Flammable tried to hide away from this, but Lash, smart on the case, should be able to get the chase down, potentially.
See the enemy.
That was a sick Arcane Surge. Singularity coming through. Catch it out on 4, man. Like, that play by itself just turned this game completely around. Yes, they got the Urn with Hoot turning it in, but to be able to pull off that many kills, not to mention be able to pull off a lasso on top of this where they could potentially turn this into a kill if Zanya wasn't there. The Paradoxical Spot going to come in. Yeah, Task trying to run away from this one. Looks like he will get away to safety. Has a backup of his team here as well. But a ridiculous set of plays happening of Abrahams here to get themselves in the lead by 7,000 souls.
Yeah, that's a huge team fight. That's the dream for Dynamo. Usually in that early game, you don't have all the items for the setup. He just manages to slip it in, get the counter engage. And one-man team bringing a lot of players to that engagement. I think it's kind of a strategic error there where maybe they could have just ratted it out. But the threat of that Urn, they just didn't want to give it up. And then the fact they lose the Urn and the massive team fight. So great position here for Abrahams. Ultis now, many of them on cooldown. This might be an opportunity to just chill and farm a little bit. I think one-man team kind of needs to find a window to strike back in the next 60 seconds, really before that Dynamo ulti is coming online. But you still have Hoot's ulti, Jamside and Sap can still show up to the fight and really engage at full power. So it's not easy for one-man team to find the entry.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about in the draft, is that there's really no window you can use against Abrahams having so many big ultimates. that you can like, all right, well, they don't have singularity, we can push. Well, if they don't have singularity, they're gonna have death slam, they're gonna have last slam, they're gonna have other things they can use to shut down any sort of aggression. It's just about, can they play around not getting caught, and then more likely for them getting catches, which they would typically do in the past when it came to the jungle, though it doesn't seem they're so confident this time.
So Paradox and Ray are starting to threaten the siege in the Walker, but that response instant now from Abrahams, bringing together Insane if they want to TP. And it's a very scary proposition for one team now to just really split and pressure a Walker, right? Committing that deep, you really are always at the risk of a major counter engage, especially from somebody like Lash. Catch on the Calico though, being pulled in deep. Melee connection. The cube though is going to keep him alive. Calico doesn't quite have the ulti, but tries to just turn the fight around, right? Taking it to Holiday, who's dancing for now, but is going to get caught down. Abrahams bringing some more numbers to this engagement though. This is going to be a continuous team fight. Incredibly close to the ulti here. Parry, not quite in time. The ulti doesn't come off. Flammable's also super low. Not going to be alive to copy ultimates. And who still has ult? You still have the Dynamo ulti as well. So One Win team losing that fight, even without really, I think, the key ults committed from Abraham, is a great sign for them moving deeper into this game.
I don't think they really lose that. I mean, they might have lost the fight, but they're not losing the war here, because we talked about the split push potential, and we're seeing them go for it. Just take the Walker. There we go. They're finally going to come down, open up the flex stop, but can they escape, though, is going to be the biggest priority for them. And it looks like at least one of them will be able to. Xenon should be safe as well. So yeah, they lose the battle over in mid lane, but they still come out with a Walker. They come out with a flex slot, and they come out actually closing that lead, that gap down to 4,000. I think something, as we touched on in the draft, with split push is definitely the route one we're going to have to go right now with all these big team play ultimates they're up against.
Yeah, now Xenia, no ulti, has to just escape, juking away. Looks like the punch should be enough to get him around the corner. Some fancy footwork as well. The Guardian as well finally goes down for One Win team. So they're starting to kind of picked apart on the map are Abrahams. But Earn coming up now should be an easy grab here for Abrahams. Now they have some of these key ultis for that team fight if they want to force it on the other side of the map. And I think that's exactly what their composition was designed to do.
Yeah, this is going to be dirty. If Abraham show, I mean, honestly, I think One Win, you kind of have to give this one up. If anything, look for a push in the right lane, get another Walker down, and get another flex slot unlocked, because you realistically cannot contest this right now. At least easily. You're going to need every single player there, and you're going to need Abrahams to mess up a lot of ultimates. And we can already see that Overseas and Empty Dream is going to be heading on the right-hand side, so I think they're definitely looking for that Walker.
Yeah, they're going to threaten the Rat. Infernus is here to defend, but I don't think he's really the best solo defender, right? Dynamo, though, with the fancy footwork, wall jumps, hitting a very quick rotation here. I wonder if the flankers are going to be ready for this. Dynamo's coming in from behind here. Big black hole connects. You cannot get the TP out of that. And the Warden ulti for the follow-up, double kill, and defend the Walker. That's exactly the scenario you wanted to create. The Earn proves to be just a ruse there. Saf, no intention of really going for the turn-in. Now, being pressured, though, in the mid lane. At the same time, Tass is the one dealing that damage, lassoing in Flammable. Roll comes out from Viscous, but it looks mostly defensive. Doesn't seem to be able to get much of a connection. Uses the blink to make a little bit of space, but yeah, I don't really see this fight working out for Xenia. He's going to be heading out of here, heading away from the fight, and Lash still has the ultimate. You got to be scared of the potential for a counter engage. And Yamato's going for the turn-in. No one's really here to stop it. Just going to have to be Xenia, but no roll. Oh, kind of sick
nice.
There. Quantum Entanglement to dodge the punch. That was nice value from Saint.
It seems like the fight maybe is over just yet. You can still see them all grouped up on the left-hand side. ABL had fallen, the most fed member of their team. This time's going to connect on to absolutely nothing. But what I don't get from that whole exchange we just saw is that Abraham sent 3 players to the right lane, and they win that fight. But One Win doesn't go for the re-engage on middle, knowing they have a man advantage. Instead, they just let Abrahams come to them. It was completely confusing. And as you did mention, Siphon Bolts picked up for together. We're going to see a lot of Siphon Bolts today, to be perfectly honest.
They're going for this.
Mid boss is low. One Win's going to go for the contest here. And One Win, they have the players they need.
Ulti catches one. Should be a quick pick off. That's Tass going down. Saf does have the ulti if he wants to commit it here in the fight. Copied ulti from Flammable with Warden trying to stabilize. A big connection from Infernus into the center of the team fight. Everybody's going for One Win team, though. Gets the lion's share of the kills and the rejuve. And it looks like a complete cleanup for them. Abraham's overestimating their power here, thinking that they could make this happen when they really couldn't. And it's a huge team wipe. That just turns the game completely on its head. Abrahams are still in a soul lead. That's how big their lead was before this fight. But for One Win team, that's exactly what they needed. Put the win back in your sails. You have all lanes pressuring in, and now even Dynamo seems to be going down. I don't know if he's going to be able to get out of this. Backstabber online for Calico, really punishing this attempted escape. No one else is coming in for the follow-up, though. Dynamo trying to juke away from this.
You're not going to escape a Calico. I'm sorry, Saint.
Yeah, it just looks impossible. Oh, the double jump. Is it enough? Surely not, right? Surely someone else is going to come and get this kill. Oh, and honestly, if he didn't get him randomly, that hiding might have worked. Actually, that was kind of a sick move.
Yeah, for sure. But a big push coming on the right-hand side with the Junior in the hands of OneWin, and also Saint being down when he has Singularity up. This is the time for them to hit go. Combustion going to be going for the stun against the team that wields it. As the Goo Ball's going to be rushing on through. Zanya able to get a couple of stunts here or there, but they're still going to lose the Walker nonetheless here. And OneWin now able to take the lead in such a long time. 7K in the lead, 18, 19 minutes in. And that was such a big turnaround from that Reju.
Oh man, losing that Reju fight is devastating. This could maybe be a moment for both teams to back off and farm. Let's bring in Dan. Dan, how are you feeling about that? Did you expect the complete 180 turnaround that this game took? I thought Abraham was going to run away with this.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think also it's largely the case that because OneWin had a pretty good start, but then it felt like they were trying to team fight against Abrahams and sort of like defeating their own like win condition, or because like that's the way that Abrahams obviously has the most power, is those elements of the game, those objectives where you are essentially saying, well, if you challenge for this, we can guarantee that we get a team fight. So it's an urn, it's the mid boss, for example, and so some of those I feel like you kind of need to just give those, like the urns in particular, and then you just get to push the rest of the map instead. And they can't really necessarily defend that nearly as well. So you kind of at least weaken their overall team power. But we didn't see that happen for OneWin, and that actually got them behind. That was what got them behind, I think. And I think you called it out as well. And so, yeah, a very fortunate moment, because obviously not enough ults online, and the position was kind of good for OneWin going into that mid boss. So now it gets kind of funky, because you know there is a slight edge here for OneWin, but at the same time, like if they aren't cognizant enough of how powerful the team fight is for Abrahams, the same thing could happen again, and Abrahams could kind of take over, and then we'll get a battle of like mid bosses. That's kind of like what I'm expecting to probably happen here, is Abraham stabilize and then sort of have a better challenge on the next mid boss and get ahead.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like to actually end the game, to get some of these key objectives is going to be a real challenge, even with a lead for OneWin team. And now that they've gotten all the walkers down, it's like the benefit you're getting from split pushing is kind of gone now, right? Like you can wrap the base, but that's definitely a much scarier proposition, right? The closer you get to the enemy throne, the more scary those split pushing plays become. So they're just continuing to farm as much of the map as they can. You see everyone's very split for OneWin team. I don't think they have any intention of actually pushing and committing with the Rejuve. I think this is a full farming Rejuve. They want to just get to like ultra late game where somebody can come end the game in the base. And there's Saf picking up Crushing Fist. So interested to see if he's going to be able to stick on some of these targets and melee them down and get those big stun procs. But everyone on OneWin team is getting pretty huge.
I was waiting to see if Express Shot's going to be picked up by Overseas, because it works with Kinetic Carbine, especially with Headhunter on top of that. You can do some insane damage as a Paradox there. But you can see Abrahams, I mean, they're sitting in base, and again, with the comeback mechanics that were introduced in this last major patch, it's kind of easy to get back into it as long as you can huddle and keep farming away, because you get those extra bonus souls. The downside for them, though, sticking here, it's obviously you're not farming your own jungle. Then again, there's really no jungle to farm anyways, so we can see on the mini-map. So for Abrahams, if you want to, for OneWin, if you want to continue to grow this lead, it's so important to take away as much jungle as you possibly can and try to punish them whenever they go for farm on their own lane creeps.
Abrahams, though, now they have everything up. Rejuve's gone. And so the lead you have, 15, 16K soul lead here for OneWin team. It's nice, but it's not going to save you if you get devastatingly connected on by these ultimates. By the same token, of course, Flammable can always copy something and make the turnaround. Holiday, though, looking for the initiate.
Oh! He worked him through it!
Yeah, made it able to dodge through. And the re-engage comes in from OneWin team. TP in from Xenon. Jam sides down. Black Hole, though, finds two. It might be enough. Traded 1 for 1 for the moment. Hoot now coming in, trying to engage, but Wraith is back, starting to deal the damage. You're low on control ultimates. And it seems like it's a disengage attempt here from Abrahams. Trade goes the way of OneWin team. They get the fight they want, split enough to not get team wiped by the Black Hole. Even Yamato could be in a little bit of trouble here. Maybe forced to ult. He really wants to hold on to that.
He's in a lot of trouble here, man, because we have 5 members of OneWin still knocking on the front doors. They're going to get their final flicks unlocked here with these Guardians going down. And the only thing you have now is together with the Death Slam. Like, Sak, yeah, you're going to have to pick up maybe 1 kill, but there's no way you can take down 5, even with the Death Slam going your way. And these respawns eventually to be coming through, but these should be the Guardians going down. I'd imagine they're not going to bother to go anymore. So we do have about 1 minute and 20 seconds till the next mid-boss spawns in. And you know that's where OneWin's going to be looking for next.
This Yamato has been forced into a pretty defensive build, right? With a lot of defensive items, a lot of sustain tools, compared to I think he maybe would have loved to be able to build a little bit more greedy and damage heavy. It's going to mean he could be a scary hero to initiate on, especially if you're able to grab something like maybe the Juggernaut, some more tankiness thread, maybe the armored vest item. I can't remember what it's called. 6K armor item.
Plated armor.
Plated armor, yeah, of course. And you got 3 walkers up, so you're going to start getting choked out for flex slots now on Team Abrahams.
Another Siphon Bullets picked up here for Mirage. Played by Xenon, also Toxic Bullets on top of that. I mean, Safi does have Life Strike, which got a major buff in the item reworks as well. So like Crush Your Fist, Life Strike, there's a lot of sustain and potential control in these fights, which honestly they might kind of need if you can stick to a target. But yeah, 100% agree. He's not being able to be as greedy as he would like to. But that's another Cultist here for Xenon. Like I'm pretty sure we have Cultists on almost every single player in this game at the moment, because it's too good for the stats it has.
Yeah, the fact that it gives you like a powerful buff on top of being an efficient, like greedy snowballing item, you know, like there's you know, for instance, something like Midas in Dota 2, right? It's the only item that actually creates more souls on the map. It's not taking a soul from your teammates by letting you farm a camp faster. It's actually souls that didn't exist before you bought the item. You're just amplifying the rewards, especially if you're able to take down those big red creeps, which have such a significant reward directly. And then the fighting threat it gives you is even better.
I kind of want to see a world where you can do damage to mid-boss with it. So you have a team of 6 who just instantly kill mid-boss because you all use it. Consume poor, whatever his name is. We'll call him Joey for now.
So Abrahams looks like they're kind of hankering for a team fight, but problem is with all the waves crashing on them, it becomes kind of scary. They don't want to give up this urn though. They think maybe this is an opportunity to get back in the game. They can get the urn pickup. It would be pretty big for them. Got 5 players here ready to engage. OneWin team trying to attempt the pickup, but this could be a risky moment for them.
Yeah, you should not be going for this for OneWin. If anything, you want to deny it. You know, they have big ultimates online to really punish you with. And already oh my god, the swap into the pickup out of telekinesis. Sap does have a chance to pop his shout transformation. That's going to be the singularity going to be coming through onto 2 players. You can see caught onto the Mirage and the Paradox and Empty Dreams. Well, he's being left alone to just do God's work here with only 3 players left alive. And the chase down to come through. OneWin. This should be them almost closing out the game.
Yeah, this does look like the beginning of the end. They're trying to chase down and catch Infernus as well. I think if he goes down here, it's really a problem now for Abrahams. OneWin team may look to just end, may look to go for the mid boss. I think that's kind of the world is their oyster here. Even Lash caught out a little bit too deep, getting punished. Should be going down here immediately. And yeah, full 6-man team wipe. OneWin team, I've just reached that point where their comp is now fully functional with, you know, even if you black hole 2 players, just the rest of the team can carry, and like they are still going to win the team fight even if you actually kill 2. And so far that hasn't been the case, especially with Xenia on this Viscus being so hard to kill, the cube being used as a saving tool. And honestly, I think Abrahams, it all comes back to that one team fight, right? It all comes back to the mid boss. If they win that fight and they secure the mid boss, this game could be ending for them, right? They could be winning. And so they're going to be really kicking themselves. The weekend patron, OneWin team going to go back for the rejuve. I almost feel like for Abrahams, you have to like full int and try to stop the mid boss, but
oh wait, are they backing out? Are they giving it up?
I kind of think they well, actually, okay, there's no dynamo ulti. I don't even know if you can fight. I think what Abrahams is making the right move though. They're going to come all in here, make the final commitments, see if they can turn things around and steal this rejuve. This is the moment to bring the game back and make it winnable. Lash is defending the base. He doesn't have ulti, so he's going to choose not to team fight. Shadow transformation already in. Yamato going to attempt to grab. Perry finds a connection, and he does grab the rejuve, so hold on. This is looking like a decent fight now for Abrahams. Warden ulti dealing a lot of damage. He's trying to stay alive now. Barrage in the sights here. Yamato getting 4 connections. Still, the OneWin team have had the better of the kills thus far in the engagement. A lot of healthy players on Abrahams continuing this fight. Saf dropping low, falling. Now it's just jam-sided together. Have to clutch the spell. Together still holding the base. It's only jam-sided, and so with the rejuve steal, maybe you keep the game alive because, you know, you're still going to be up quick with those rejuves. Infernus desperately needs to play his way out of this, though. Crucial hero not to lose. Still has that rejuve buff, and looks like he may be able to hold on to that.
Here's the respawn's going to come back through. I mean, there's an upside and a downside to it. I think the upside is you still take away rejuve, so you kind of delay the game a little bit longer. The downside is now all your lanes are shoving up against OneWin, which means you're losing out on a lot of farm that you kind of need to get yourself back into the game, because you're still down almost 50k in souls. You're like down like 45,000 at the moment. So this is it's a good and a bad for Abrahams, to be honest.
Calico, greedy, stealing some camps, unstoppable, incredibly powerful. Looks like it is going to just get him out of this. I like that new visual effect on Unstoppable. Actually very noticeable, and it wasn't before. Yamato being caught now, has to ulti to dodge that. They're still going to be fighting it out, though, outside of the base. Abrahams has a couple of regions up. Fight's going decently for them so far, but they're missing some of the key ultimates they've been relying on in this game. Infernus forced back. Now back to the middle of the fight. Hoot trying to dive deep with the ulti, trying to continue the catch. Big connection, though, from Lash. Wraith in big trouble. This is a major part of the damage for One Win Team. He's trying to juke away, trying to dodge some of the focus fire. Still dealing that effective damage himself. He's starting to really stack it up with those lifesteal and siphon bullets. Big connection now, and now Wraith is really getting to work. The turret online. And Abraham is fighting without the ultis. They tried to take the risk. They tried to take the gamble. Looks like it did not pay off. And this could be the end of the game right now. Nice parry. Keeps Jamside up for the moment.
How does Empty Dream stay alive from this one, man? He had everything being thrown at him. He got Death Slam. He somehow escaped from this one. I believe Together didn't max his Death Slam, if I'm not mistaken there, because he didn't get really stunned up. He was able to escape from that one. I'm not sure what the connection was. Maybe it was Kinetic Carbine that came through to actually delay the ground strike off the back of that. But either way, he stays alive. He gets himself back up to a reasonable amount of HP. They're going to continue to push on through here, try to get a catch onto Jamside. They have to worry, though. Singularity is coming up in just a few seconds.
Oh, nice juke out, though, from Lash. He's going to live for the moment. But this is the opportunity to dive the Patron. Big connection with the Black Hole on 3. Do they have the follow-up damage? Jamside's doing everything he can, trying to DPS down. But it seems to be too little, too late. One Win Team are going to be your winners here of the Challenger match. They're going to go on to face their old nemesis in Virtus.pro. This game was looking pretty scary for them, but with that massive turnaround fight around the mid-boss, they secure the lead and they do not give it up from there. Immaculate performance from One Win Team, making their classic split-pushing strategy work here.
Well, yeah, you have to wonder. That one fight, I read you, could that have completely changed the way the game played out? One Win finally get redemption, taking on Abrahams, who defeated them just a few weeks prior. Nice to see One Win get back on their feet here, but they still have a very tough challenge coming their way here, Jake. They still have Virtus.pro at a best of 3 after this.
And honestly, One Win won this game, right? And they got that big lead and they did not give it up. They played it from ahead incredibly well, you know, and they really dealt with the team fighting strategy. However, like, honestly, you got to go back to that mid. If that mid boss fight goes the other way, if you lose that fight and lose Rejuve, I think you lose this game. I think that fight is the game for One Win Team. And you could argue that's a bit of an error by Abrahams, right? They didn't have the Lash ult. He had just missed Lash ult. It was a bit of a disconnect that they were going for the mid boss. The Lash was trying to catch. The catch fails. Okay, we'll try to do mid boss. Lash is like 1 HP. And the fight got very awkward for Abrahams and they weren't able to win it out. But for One Win Team, I'm a little worried for their strat. I think they fell so far behind so early. I think they're a little bit lucky to be able to make that comeback. And I wonder, against a team like Virtus.pro, will that continue to work? I think I would love to see them maybe have a little bit more team fight, a little bit more ability to contest those early objectives in their drafts in that coming match.
I think one thing I want to be fair to them was, though, once they got control of that game after they had that big fight at the Rejuve, they looked unstoppable. Like, they didn't lose a single fight thereafter. They were taking away jungle camps really efficiently. They were constantly denying farm as much as possible. They were winning fights, spreading out really well. I think, barring the early stages of the game, they looked fantastic once they had control. But I don't know if it's easy for a team like One Win right now to get control against a team like Virtus.pro and run away with it, because VP are a completely different beast.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. And VP has been the team that historically has loved team fighting, right? I think that's oftentimes been the way they've drafted, is to play for a lot of these big team fight ultis, play around, grouping up and fighting well together. And they've been insane in the comeback and the defensive scenarios. And to me, it feels like that's the way this patch is starting to lean, with some of these team fighting drafts looking good. And I know they lost this game, Abraham's drafting for the team fight, but they were in the driver's seat for quite a while. And so curious to see if One Win Team is confident still in the same strategy, the one that they've kind of played a lot previously with a lot of these heavy split pushing and high damage characters, or if they decide to maybe change things up and be a little bit more jack of all trades coming into the next game. Got to hand it, though, to Flammable, I think, in particular on the Sinclair, making a really nice performance of like ulting and stabilizing some of those like very scary team fights. Flammable's able to get a couple comeback kills with like copied Warden ults and able to get a lot done on the Sinclair. So seeing him succeed on the signature character, something that you can definitely build on for a One Win Team going forward into the money match.
Well, speaking of wins, we got to bring in, I think, if he's allowed to come back in, Dan the man with the plan to talk about that last match here. He's there, I swear, even though his camera's not on. Oh, there he is.
Hey, I'm in the dark, guys.
He's in the dark because he is just scared of how that last match played out here. Dan, what was your thoughts?
In the dark. Yeah, I think it was really interesting. I think Jake brought up a great point that I definitely agree with. it's super interesting to see. I mean, there's also like cool things to talk about, but just like from the macro strategy point of view, we mentioned that inflection point where OneWin did get ahead in the game. then they took like a team fight where they could have just been split pushing. They're fighting over the urn. And I think if you're looking at that game in the comp, I feel like you do need to be like, hey, here are our protocols. Like we can let them have urns. When they get urns, we try to split push the map. That's kind of like what our comp is going to be better at, and that's where their comp will be worse. They want to force team fights. And I think after that mistake was made, obviously able to recover with that really sick mid boss fight, like Jake mentioned. But what's interesting from that point forward, and I don't know that Abraham should necessarily give up on the vision. I feel like they might just need to improve on how they understand how to like engineer the team fights, because one of the things that's really difficult, I think, is actually finding ways to do that effectively. And also like if your timings are off or you don't have the right ults, like having an understanding of the spacing, like there's so many small details to how you can actually perform the team fights there effectively to really maximize that potential. And I think it's something that also gets you back from a big soul deficit too, because there's so much potency with those ults if used correctly. And it's a bit more foolproof, I think, to instead use OneWin's approach, where they got all these brawlers, where you can kind of like get into fights, get out of fights. If a fight goes well for you, and then you can obviously chase down enemy heroes really effectively with the comp that you have. You can disengage much more easily. You can find picks around the map much more easily. It's a lot more kind of, I guess, like pick and choose there, and not a lot as much like team play that's required and a sense of how to engineer these fights. So I actually think that Abrahams could be really sick with this. I think they just need to work on it a bit more. And I think, likewise for OneWin, it was a little bit worrying that I do also feel like they probably should have lost the game had they not kind of managed to kind of get that mid boss steal, because maybe Abrahams kind of forced it a little bit too early.
All right, guys, it's going to be on to the money match next. We're going to give OneWin team just a minute. We got to also shout out our MVP of the match before we close things out. Let's take a look who you went with. And Zania.
I initially picked ABL, but then Jason's like, oh, Zania. So we're going to do Zania. And Jason, I feel like that's totally fair. And you should talk about the cubes, man, because you're all about the cubes.
I think his cubes had massive impact in this game. There was a lot of like times when he used it at the perfect moment to save a teammate, to help turn fights around. Also, his placement with the goo balls and the way he was creating space for his team was fantastic. Like this, when you have a singularity, you should be able to kill someone from it, right? But he survives long enough with just being Viscous plus his cube that he allows the turnaround to come through. Like a lot of these cubes, this one as well, when he gets around the corner with the lasso, he was the playmaker. He was the savior of the team in my eyes. And I don't think we really give like supports enough credit necessarily when it comes to watching these matches. But the way he played Viscous was just so spot on. It really helped extend these fights and turn things around.
There's another layer to this too.
Wait, that was a highlight? Oh, hi Lash, walking by.
Space created.
So there's another layer to this too, where like Jason has anti-cat bias and I have pro-cat bias. So, maybe that's also why ABL's not making an appearance here.
Cats are the worst, to be fair.
I mean, yeah, no, I agree though. I actually like the call out for our support. We don't always do it, but this was a game where so many of those later game team fights where Saint was kind of forced into like a two-man black hole, they're getting almost completely nullified by the presence of Viscous. And so cool to see Viscous being built, playing that like semi-support, semi-team fighter role. And if you're going to have like a team fight in a box on just one hero, I think Viscous is about as good as it gets with the power of Goo Ball to kind of take a ton of attention and solo tanking threat for the rest of the squad. So well done by Zinnia, showing off the Viscous, looking solid here in this first match.
You can Arcane Surge and make your Goo Ball even bigger, right? Does it make?
I think it also increases duration, which should also increase the stun, the stun time of it. So it's Arcane Surge is kind of broken on Goo Ball. Like I think you should always Arcane Surge your Goo Ball.
That's kind of, or Arcane Surge a cube, right? Because you get to actually keep someone in the cube a lot longer to heal too. Ridiculous stuff. I know Goober's watching this like, I want to play some Viscous on stream.
I think definitely the Arcane Surge ulti is like crazy efficient, right? Like, and it's nice because you can build, like we talk, like building the cooldown, building the duration. These are really solid items for Viscous, allowing him to be pretty effective as a damage dealer too, right? Especially you think later in the game, you might upgrade that cold front into the Arctic Blast and starts to become just this massive stunner. Great, like for taking the vision. Unstoppable as well, I believe was what he bought there. It's pretty defensive, nice defensive tool where you can unstoppable yourself and then save your cube for an ally.
But gentlemen, if you go Arcane Surge Goo Ball plus Colossus, how big does that ball get? God damn.
I like the way you think. Can even get through some of these archways.
But obviously, you know, Dan, you were saying, you know, ABL, he was definitely one of the people you were looking at when it came to MVP. I mean, the player damage he did was ridiculous. The box farming he did early on was insane. He also got up to an insane amount of souls as well, him and Empty Dreams, even though ABL was more about being involved with the team and Empty Dreams is more about farming. Still has a really good, still played extremely well. I just didn't see as like many great individual moments out of him as I saw out of Empty Dreams. Like that rejuve take, I think was one almost basically off the hands of Empty Dreams.
True.
I think another interesting fact actually about ABL too. I feel like he could have gotten a lot fatter in this game. ABL was like super far ahead in the early game with the box running, and then they were looking for that fight that ended up getting all of them wrecked. You know, that where there was that huge singularity, and there was that period of maybe like 2 or 3 minutes when ABL just didn't get any farm at all, and everyone else started to catch up. So I feel like there's some more efficiency and optimization there. Again, if they would have stuck more with their kind of what should make sense with their comp in terms of strategy. So I feel like ABL could have even gotten a much bigger game.
Well, we'll have to see if they're able to show us even more impressive performances in that money match. As always, guys, Deadlock Fight Night, we are presented by Intel, and they're partnering not just to make this show possible, but also to have a nice, sweet giveaway for you. I believe it's a 14900K. Wow. i9 14900K is going to be on the giveaway. So you can go to Deadlock Fight Night, deadlockfightnight.com right now to enter, throw your hat into the ring. And as always, supporting our sponsor supports us, supports the broadcast. So thank you to the community. Thank you to Intel for making this giveaway possible and allowing us to run this wonderful production. It's going to be all for the moment for us. We're going to have to check in with the players, let them get their rest, recovery as OneWin gets ready to take on Virtus.pro. We'll be right back after a short break.